Excellent. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Bots, the next UI revolution. Thanks for coming along. I'm Adam Stephensen. I'm an Azure technical specialist at Microsoft. Oh, we've got a few extra people coming in. I'll just give them a few minutes to kind of get settled. And I'll do the restart. Hi everyone, and welcome to Bots, the next UI revolution. Thanks for coming along. I'm Adam Stephensen. I'm an Azure technical specialist at Microsoft. I love trying new things. I started using Azure back when it was just SQL Service, cloud services, and a bit of storage. I've always loved being on the cutting edge of user interface. So I used MVC when it was brand new. I shipped apps to production in Angular 2 when it was in alpha. And I shipped .NET Core to production when it was still in beta. Lots and lots of fun. In my personal life, I love trying new things. This is my latest new thing. It's a 6.5 metre tippy kayak. So that kind of keeps me active on the weekend. And at work, my great new thing is building bots, and I've been building bots for about a year now. Look, with any new thing, there's always a learning curve. I've been building bots for government agencies, the universities, financial institutions, and large corporations. And the goal of today's talk is to talk to you about where I'm seeing that there's real value to businesses and where developers are actually really enjoying building bots. But the real goal is to kind of call out, I see the same mistakes being made time and again. And my goal today is to kind of help you to get an understanding of all the pieces and how they fit together, and to help you to jump over some of those common mistakes that I see everyone making. Just calling out that this is not an official talk, and just all of these opinions are things that I've seen happening in customers throughout the last 12 months. I think when we're looking forward, it often is very useful to look at the past and how we got to where we are today. In the 1980s, this crazy guy came out and said, one day there'll be a PC on every desk and one in every office. And it turns out that he was onto a good thing. The 90s, the internet came along, and it turns out that wasn't a fad. The internet has fundamentally changed the way that we live today. And the mobile revolution started in 2000. It's crazy for me I think when you stop and you think that the iPhone X is the 10-year anniversary of the iPhone, you think just how much of our life has changed now that we have mobile devices. We have, organisations like banks now that are going, people are choosing their bank based on, not on the customer service experience, but by the features that they have in their mobile platform. So the mobile revolution was really a big deal. And now looking forward, we're looking at a conversational AI revolution exactly the same size as we saw the mobile revolution, but it's coming up on us way faster. And that's obviously what I'm here to talk to you about today. So what am I going to cover? I'm going to talk about what are bots and why should you care about them. We're going to talk about the fact that the real power behind the bots is in the artificial intelligence that we do in the bots. We're going to pull a bot apart and look at all the different components and how they all fit together. Then we're going to talk about when bots go wrong and why they go wrong, and try and help you avoid those common mistakes, and then look at what's likely coming up. What are we going to see in the future with bots? So what are bots? Well, bots are really just an app that interacts with users in a conversational way. I really got into bots because I try to be responsible, and with my little girls in the car, I try not to, I don't touch my phone. So I got a great mount, I stick it on the windscreen, and I talk to it all the time. Very common for me is, okay, Google, navigate to Bondi. And then, try again. Okay, Google, navigate to Bondi. And then, okay, Google, show me coffee shops on my route. And then once I've done that and it's shown me, I've only got to go.
Places within 300 meters.
Thanks for being snappy, Google. So, it can tell me, here's where you're going, here's the coffee shops on your route, and here's how much of a diversion you need. So that kind of got me thinking about the power of ambient conversation platforms. The other amazing bot experience that I just want to share quickly to give an idea. So everyone's familiar with, the Siri Google experience. the other bot that I just want to call out that's really that I think demonstrates some of the powers of bots is our Microsoft Health bot. Now, the idea of the Health bot is it's still a research project, it's still a work in progress, but it's a virtual assistant to help diagnose issues. So this can be helpful in areas where people can't immediately get to a clinician. And I just want to do a really quick, so this is just a public URL you can come in and have a try of. I can come in here and go try it. Whoops, I'm going to shut that down. So I'm going to come in and I'm just going to try, I'm going to come in and I'm say, what's wrong with me today? I'm going to say, I have a bleeding eye. I don't know what made me think of that. And so it's now going to prompt me and it's going to say, how long have I had a bleeding eye for? I'm having some issues with my mouse. A minute or longer. It's now going to think about that, what's happening, it's staying the same, and it's going to navigate me through a triaging process. Did I get cut? No. So it's already no, so it's talking about bleeding. Do I have eye pain? No. Did I hurt or injure my eye? No. I'm curious to find out what's wrong with me now. Do I have, no, so it's bleeding, but I can still see clearly. And so what am I like? What's likely wrong with me? I've got high femur, foreign body. Oh, none of this sounds good. But when you actually stop and think about what was happening in the background, I just had a very easy user interface experience. But when you think about the permutations of symptoms of what I could have started with and how I ended up with a summary of what I said was wrong and some things to consider that might be wrong with me, that's a pretty impressive user experience. And you think about the number of different situations where this kind of paradigm could be applied is pretty amazing. So just to get us started, I just wanted to put that out there as two kind of different but alternative examples of what a bot actually could look like. What do you think common bot scenarios are? I've been doing this for a year. I've seen heaps of them. What do you think are the really common ones? Yeah, customer service is definitely right up there. Any other ones? Yeah, lots of troubleshooting ones. As I just showed, so there's a lot of use cases are in medical. You know, booking appointments, getting test results, and I just showed you like an initial triage process. Transportation. You know, we're seeing anyone who in transport and any industries where you don't have your hands free, but you need information or you need to commit actions, is a great use for bots. Staff productivity. So I know the SSW guys have got a bot that they're showing where they're actually finding out what resources are available, all by using a chat bot that's going and talking back to all of their back-end services. Hospitality, I was up in my room and the little thing in the sink wasn't working, and I looked at the phone and thought I couldn't be bothered finding out how to use that. So I ended up going down in the lift and talking to someone at reception and then going back up. I'd have loved to have had a bot where I could have gone, hey, my sink's blocked. Booking assistance, all of those kind of things is really common. Customer service got called out. This is massive. This is where a lot of the banks are coming to us and they're going, you call the bank now and you get press 1 for insurance, press 2 for home loans, press 3 for banking matters. Then you go into insurance and it says, do you want home insurance? Do you want personal insurance? Do you want car insurance? They've got these very customized IVR systems that they're then trying to tie into their backends. They can go and build one bot and then surface it in their Android app, their iOS app. They could have it surfaced on Alexa via voice. They can have it on their website and they can have it powering their phone system. So this is why a lot of these big government and financial institutions that you don't necessarily think of as being progressive are all jumping in the conversational agent bandwagons. And IT help desk. We're building a lot of IT help desks. Reset my password, come and log an issue back into ServiceNow, all those kind of things. And I've actually just got one of those running. So I've got it running here. I've got the code that I'll share. And we're going to have a look at some of the code that's running. It's just a .NET Core, so the Microsoft Bot Framework's available in a bunch of different languages. So I've got it running here in the emulator. And I can come in here and I can type in, my computer isn't working. And just the same as the Microsoft Health Bot went and did all of those vast permutations of different things. Oh no, please shut it down, try it again. It still isn't working. Okay. Not tremendously helpful. I'm sure people have done a better job of IT help desks than me. A great example of people who did it really well is HP. So they take 600 million technical support contacts per year. The first 70%, so 70% of them are now handled by AI. That's a crazy statistic. So what they've done is they've said all of those really basic hits that they were getting is now handled by AI, which has now freed up their actual support operators to handle their level 2 and 3 cases. Their users are, their support guys are happier because they're not dealing with the easy issues. Their customers are happier. It works better for everybody. So that's a bit of an idea around bots and conversational agents. I've got some great statistics that kind of drive home the point of why it's worth investing in them. 20% of brands are abandoning their mobile apps by 2019, according to Gartner. They're not seeing the return on investment on those mobile apps because they're not engaging enough. They don't exist where the users want them to be. 30% of web browsing sessions are going to be done by voice first by 2020. So instead of pulling out your phone, opening a browser and Googling something, people are just going to want to be able to ask the question and get an answer back. Digital agents, when I saw, this is not from Gartner, this is a Microsoft stat, and I thought it was overblown when I first saw it. It's right on the money. My job is helping enterprises, corporates and governments be successful in the cloud. And this is about 60% of my time at the moment is spent building bots for all of these really large organizations. 95% of interactions are going to be powered by AI bots, including telephone and online by 2025. Big companies are jumping on this. And it's not just big companies, but that's the space I work in, so I see that being pushed a lot. Here is my favourite stat though. There's a lot of stats in there. By 2020, the average person will have more conversations with bots than with their spouse. And I'm in a room of software developers, so I think a lot of us are already, I know I've already crossed that boundary. But that's pretty amazing. Bots are just going to be ubiquitous. So I think that's, it's worth talking about them. So from a business point of view, companies are getting in on them because they're going to save them money. It automates repetitive tasks, and then hands off to a human. And that's also, I've got a demo, I've got some code that I can share. So the human handoff is a very important part. What you want to do is a really common pattern is I'm going to, the first 70%, all the easy questions I'm going to handle just with the AI. And then anything that I can't, I'm going to hand off and do what we call a human handoff, but connect the user with a real human operator. It's actually trivially easy in the bot framework to actually run sentiment analysis and go, oh, this user's getting a bit irritated. I'm actually going to transfer them to a human before they get any more irritated. So customers are going to expect a first-class conversational experience. The same way that people expect, if they're going to bank with you, they expect an awesome mobile app. People are going to expect the same thing from their bots. And bots are an opportunity to differentiate from your competitors in the commercial space. Just like, Uber, Netflix, they use mobile and the internet to really disrupt their industries. We're going to see a lot of that with bots as well. I'm talking, we're at a developer conference though, so what's the reason developers should care? Look, bots are going to be the new UI, or they are the new UI. I was leading, I can see Duncan's here, we ran around and we were very early into Angular. We saw that when Angular 2 came out, it was going to be massive. And it was amazing seeing everyone we knew who had Angular skills. Everywhere we went, we were running training, we were doing presenting. Everyone was coming to us going, do you know anyone who knows Angular who's looking for a job? That's when you're on the right point of these waves, there's from a developer's point of view, this is going to be the new front end, and it's worth, from a career point of view, it's going to open up a lot of opportunities. Because the modern front end developers are going to be conversational agent developers. The same way now that people, when you go to a company, they're like, well, we need a website and we need a mobile device, we need a mobile app, we need iOS and we need Android. It's going to be, and we're going to need this selection of digital assistants, or we're going to need this selection of bots. We're going to need one for, we're going to need to stick bots in our apps. We're going to stick bots in our website, and we might want to stick something in Alexa or Chrome or Cortana. For developers though, and from back-end developers, the same way that the back end, before I was a front-end developer, I was a real developer. and I didn't write any JavaScript, I just wrote the back end. But then, so back-end developers with the advent of SPAs have had to become API developers. And that's the same now. If you're not an API developer, you're going to be an API developer because you're going to have a range of different front ends connecting to you. But my favourite reason why I'm excited about bots is I've spent so many years listening to all my friends bang on about how all the good mobile apps have been made, that if only they had the right idea, they could make $1 million. I'm sure everyone's had that experience. Everyone's sitting around going, why have all the good Spotifys and Shazams and all of those things been made? Well, this is your chance. So, it's like, do it or shut up. The next $1,000 million bots haven't been made yet. If you sit back, there are opportunities right now, and I'm going to give you one because this is one that I want someone to make for me. So I literally do that. I love coffee. I'm on the road a lot. I use my Bean Hunter app every day to find the good coffee in my area. I've also there's a couple of different apps that I can find coffee shops that I can book my coffee and it'll be ready when I get there. What I want is a conversational agent where I can say, navigate me to where I'm going, show me coffee shops on the way, and I want it to check my Bean Hunter ratings, find somewhere that's good, and then give me some options. There's this one on your route, or you can take 3 minutes out of your route for an extra 2 stars. Do you want me to book it for you? Yes. I see that you've got a meeting with this customer. Do you want to make it a double? Absolutely. These are the things that people are going to make a lot of money on. So it's time to innovate. It's all about AI. And what's remarkable about AI is, I work with some deep machine learning guys, and is there any of those here? Like the guys who go and do the deep, they're freaks. I didn't realise how smart they were till I went to one of their presentations, and he's got crazy maths on, and I'm like, wow, that's amazing. But the point about this is that, so Microsoft has all of that tooling that I leave for those guys, and they're like, oh no, you could work it out. I'm like, I don't want to go and study maths for 4 years to do that. Microsoft's got another level of services though called the cognitive services. And the whole point of it is they abstract all of that away and they give you RESTful APIs that you can talk to and look like you know all that crazy smart stuff. So there's a whole bunch of them around vision, speech, language, knowledge and search. The vision ones, I can take a photo and I can do image processing. The speech ones, they can take as I speak. So we've actually crossed the 95.1% threshold now, which is the standard for professional dictation is 2 professional, it's not dictators, 2 professional people taking dictation, transcribing text. So our speech service just crossed that and is now better than that. And as well as that, not only transcribing them, but actually being able to work out who is speaking. Language, being able to talk and have it determine what's your intent. A whole lot of knowledge services around, which we're going to have a look at around like Q&A Maker, search, and a whole lot of things happening in the labs team. So there's all of these different cognitive services. I'm going to give you an idea of how easy they are. I'm just going to jump in and do a quick demo to give you an idea once again. So we've got this speech service. This is the one I was talking about. It's remarkably easy. So you can just navigate there, go to Azure Cognitive Services. You can come in and hit try it and you can try them all. So it might be a bit of a noisy room, but I'm having issues with my mouse. Hi, and welcome to the Norwegian Developer Conference. I hope you like my talk. Awesome. Pretty cool. Very easy. We're using this a lot to transcribe. So we've got a customer, financial customer that has, their call center has, thousands and thousands and thousands of hours of audio. What they want to do is they want to transcribe all of that so they can start working out customer happiness, how do they go, which topics upset the customer, so you can take all of this audio and very easily get it transcribed. I'm quickly just going to show the other one that we use a lot is the vision service. So I'm going to go into the vision service, and there's so many of these different services. Face detection, the image detection one is really useful. We've used this a lot for a number of different customers. So when I go into face detection demo, I can just click on demo to try it. I can come down here and I can actually just add my own image. So I'm going to come and I'm going to go to the NDC site. I'm going to get my speaker profile. I'm going to copy the URL. I'm going to come in here. I'm fighting with my mouse. I'm going to paste that in and hit submit. So that's now taken that image and it's just posted up against that RESTful endpoint. It's done a whole bunch of behind the scenes image analysis on it. and it's come back, and I can, oops, oh, I must have done the wrong one. I've just done face detection. So I actually meant to do, oh, that was the wrong one. Sorry, I'm going to try that one again. My mouse has gone a bit. Sorry, try this. Okay, that seems to have calmed it down. So it's now taken my image, it's posted it in, and it's giving me a whole lot of information back. So so cognitive services, very easy if you can get your mouse to work. So it's gone and it's identified my face. You can see here I'm not very bald. It's come through and it's detected that my hair is 95% grey, thanks Azure. There's a bit of brown and a few other colours in there. I'm not smiling very much. It's detected I'm male. It's accurately detected that this photo was taken a few years ago, because don't we all do that on our profile pictures? I'm reasonably clean shaven. Really interesting is it can actually go through and analyse your emotions in the photo. So in this photo, I'm deliberately looking very neutral. You can see if I'm looking happy or I'm fearful or I'm contemptful, it can extract all of that out of the image as well. You can post an image up with a whole lot of different people and it'll actually individually analyse all of them and provide you with all of that information. Down here further, it's really interesting. It breaks down all the different parts of your face and gives you the coordinates for them. I never got the point of this until a few weeks ago. One of my colleagues, who's actually in the room, went and actually used this service for a retail company to go, and they spend millions of dollars a year taking thousands and thousands of photos, and they send them overseas to a cleaning house where they go through, and before they put images on their website, they have to be centered, they have to be cut at a particular position, they have to have a certain amount of width around all of them, the images have to be centered, they all have to have the same background. Cost them millions of dollars a year. He did a proof of concept and automated it using these services. Really amazing. And then it detects the small percentage that it doesn't, that still need further work, and just those ones go overseas. So these features in the cognitive services are pretty amazing. So that kind of gives you an idea of the power of the cognitive services. The two that we're using bots all the time, there's one called Q&A Maker. And Q&A Maker enables you to power a question and answer service from semi-structured content. What that means is I'm going to take all my FAQs and all of my documentation and I'll make them easily searchable. We did this for a government department in Melbourne or in Victoria that had hundreds and hundreds of FAQs on their website that no one could ever use. They went, put them all in Q&A Maker, and now you've got a bot out of the box. Users can come in, type a question, and they're going to get the right answer. So I'm going to very quickly just give you an idea of how you can set one of those up. So I collect, when I collect links, I used to have them all in OneNote. Now I go and stick them all in a Git repo. So I've got this web page that I've essentially created that's a list of question and answers around Azure. So you can come, and if you want to go and check out my GitHub, I've got this web page that has a whole lot of question and answers around where do I go and find particular things for Azure, because I've got a bad memory and it's got like my public dump of the stuff I want to remember. If I wanted to make a bot out of this, it's remarkably easy. I can just take that URL, go into Q&A Maker, go create a knowledge base. I've got to hook it back into my Azure subscription. So I go, I'm going to use my Microsoft subscription, my internal subscription. I choose what engine I want to use, what service I want to use. And then I literally go in and give it a name, NDC Q&A, and I paste in the URLs. So I can have a bunch of URLs in there. I'm going to keep it specific to bots because I want to have a bot that I can ask about bots because I consider that quite meta. And then I go create KB. So what that's doing behind the scenes is it's grabbing that URL, it's parsing it to pull out, it's going to pull out the questions, pull out the answers, and then stick them into an Azure search, which is essentially, if anyone's used Elasticsearch or Lucene, it's the same idea as that. It's actually, I think, Lucene under the covers. So you can see that's very easily come through and it's broken up my question and answers from my web page into a series of question and answers that I can now query. And I can query them with natural language. So what I can do is I can come in and I can test it. I can come in here and straight from my FAQ page, I could type a question that's not actually on the page. I could come and type, are there any sample applications for bots? And now what that's going and doing is it's going, oh, there are heaps of awesome samples, and you can find them here. So what that's gone is it's gone and find the closest answer from what I pulled in, which will probably be around here somewhere, about sample applications. You can see that one works. And then I could come in and do something different, like I can't get my app settings to work. The trick is to put them in local settings.json on your dev machine. Oh, there's the sample applications one. And there'll probably be something about app settings around here somewhere. How do I get app settings into my bot? There you go. So this had how do I get app settings into my bot. The Q&A maker has translated I can't get my app settings to work and has given me the right answer to my question. Very powerful, very easy. And as you can see, this already looks like a bot. There's a lot more power and smarts to these about self-training and publishing, but I'm just going to touch on all of this very lightly today. The next service that I'm going to, and we're going to tie this into bots, and again in a little bit. The next service that I'm going to talk about is Lois. So the Q&A maker takes your FAQs and Q&As and makes them searchable. Okay, Lois takes your natural text and works out what are you trying to do. So I could say users will say things to your bot a whole bunch of different ways. One user might say I want to book a flight. Another user might say get me a plane to London. Another one might say I need a flight tomorrow morning. What we want to do in our code, if we put back on our coders hats, we want to work out what are they trying to do. Then we want to have a switch statement somewhere that says, if they said something that means book a flight, go and call this method. That's what we want to do, yeah? But not easy to do, but Lois makes it easy. So what Lois does is it goes, and this is the first look at so the bot code is really simple. Essentially, user types something in, it calls the onTurn method. It passes in the context, and the context comes in and it contains the text that the user typed and a whole lot of other information. We can actually just take that context, we wire up a bit of middleware to wire up Lois. We handle the context off to Lois, and it's going to come back and find the top intent. So it's going to say, based on what the user typed in, this is what they meant to do. Then you can have a switch statement and then go off and execute whatever you were going to do, which is probably navigate off to the book a flight dialog. Make sense? Let's have a look at, the buttons on my new clicker are the other way around from the other one. Let's go and have a look. I actually went and built the book a flight. I went and built the book a flight Lois entry. So what I did was I came in here and I put in what we call utterances. So I said, I'm going to create an intent called book flight. And then I went and put some utterances in, and what the utterances are what are likely things that users are going to say that mean, I want to book a flight. So they could say, I need a flight, I want to book a flight, I'd like a flight to somewhere. And so as well as the utterances, I went and I described some entities. And the entities are, for example, cities are a hierarchical entity that has, for cities, I could have a destination and an origin when I'm booking a flight. The same thing, so another entity is going to be the date, my class, which has a list of the different fare types, and the number of tickets. So then I went through and I described a number of those utterances, and including the entities inside my utterances. I can now then come in and test this. I can come in and type an utterance. So I could come in here and do something like saying, I want a flight. And if I go and click on it, mouse is crazy. You can see that it's returned the top scoring intent is book flight. I could come in here and I could type something a little bit more advanced in. I could actually type in I would like to build book a flight. I would like a book a flight, which is also going to return a book flight intent. But I could come in and say, I'd like a flight to New York. Now it's going to say, oh, you want to book flight with a destination of New York. Pretty cool to be able to pull this out of natural text. I could come in and I could say, I'd like to book a flight to New York tomorrow. And now it's pulled out of that sentence that I'm going to New York and I want to leave tomorrow. You can see how this is really powerful. So it's going to return me some JSON. I can tell what the intent is. I'm pulling those entities out and I can pass those entities as parameters in the method that I'm calling. In that next dialogue, then I'd go, well, these are the entities I've got. I only need to ask him about if I've got the date, time, and I've got the destination. I can assume I know where the user is. I can just ask about fare class. Make sense? Who thinks that's really powerful? Yeah, these are the tools, and that's why I say that bots are powered by AI. Having to do this without these cognitive services, really, they are what's made it possible. So, the real reason the cognitive services are amazing, they're really easy to use, they're super flexible, because they're RESTful endpoints, doesn't matter, you can call them from native iOS, Android, any language you like, and they're massively tested. They're used by GitHub, Microsoft, we use them in our own products. Now I'm going to dump into the anatomy of a bot and actually give you an idea of how we plug a bot together. One thing that people miss is when they're thinking of a bot, they're thinking of a constant stream of text. Bots work the same way as our old Windows Forms dialogues, Windows Forms applications. When you load the bot, there's a concept of a main dialogue. You launch the main dialogue and it just displays some text. What do you want to do today? From there, we gather what the user says, and then based on what the user says, we might determine what their intent is, and then we're going to navigate them off to another dialogue, which is another section of behaviour. So there's this same idea in designing bots that we had back in designing traditional applications. Now, nearly every customer I've been to goes through the same 3 phases when they go building their bots. The first phase is, I just want to do the smallest possible thing because I don't actually know if I believe it even works. So everyone comes along and they do the most basic thing. And this is how a bot is structured. It kind of gives you an idea of how we put a bot together. What the bot is we go and get our bot code using the bot framework and we just go and stick it in a web app in Azure. That's all a bot really is it's an API that we're exposing with our bot code in it. Then we go and we wire up a bot connector, and the bot connector then talks back to our web application. Now, the bot connector is kind of where a lot of the magic happens, because with the bot connector, we've now got one lot of code that's going to contain all of our logic, and our bot connector then enables us to go and plug in whatever channels that we want to. So we could build our bot initially just using the web chat that comes out of the box, and then in 15 or 20 minutes, if we wanted to hook up Facebook, we log into Facebook, create a page, get the keys we need, log in and attach them to the bot connector, and now the same bot that we already has is exposable by Facebook. So this is how organisations are building a bot and exposing it on many, many channels just by going and turning all of these different channels on. I've done lots of development on Skype, Skype for Business, Slack. Twilio allows you to communicate with your bot via text, email and Microsoft Teams. And all of those are really easy to plug in. Direct line's where you get a lot of power though. That very last one in the list, it's the one that lets you do whatever's not in the list. So by using direct line, if you wanted to go and stick a bot into your Windows Forms app or your old ASP.NET web, your old applications, if you wanted to connect into Alexa, this is where you use direct line. So direct line actually lets you connect, write your own code, use direct line and talk through the bot connector back to your app. It's the one that lets you do all of the stuff that doesn't come under the covers, that doesn't come out of the box. So how we go and we create our bot is we go into the Azure portal, we come in and we go, I want to come in and I want to create a resource. I'm going to type bot and choose web app bot. I fill in my details, I choose my pricing plan, I tell it where I want to stick it in the world. You can definitely stick them in Australia, or it was one of the big requirements for the government departments, is that all of the service needs to reside in Australia. So we've got, obviously that's a big deal if you're working with government, so we can definitely do that. We go create, and then we choose the bot template, and this is where a lot of people come unstuck. is they come in and there's 5 templates that they can choose. The basic template, a form template for doing, essentially filling in a form but in a conversational UI, a language understanding bot, a question and answer bot, or a proactive bot, which can come back to you and essentially push notifications to you. And everyone gets stuck there and they're like, which one do I do? And this is bad UI because nearly every bot I've built includes all of these. Okay, so it kind of leads people down the garden path. So that's one of the main lessons to walk away with. So what I've actually got is I've gone and built just a sample bot. And the idea of my sample bot is just to show you some common problems and to get around some common problems that people have. What it does is, if you go onto my GitHub, it does things like it shows you how to use Lois and Q&A together. It shows you how to do navigation, how to show a welcome message, how to do global messages, and a whole lot of different things plugged in together. So what you can actually do is just go and choose a basic bot. It's going to provision that, and then you go and put your code from my sample app or any of the other sample apps on the the official Git repos into your project. Cool? Then you click OK, it goes and creates it. You click on the bot, and it's going to, so this is the bot resource group, which is just the collection of things that got created. You navigate into the bot, you can click on test in web chat, and you can now go and type against your bot. Very, very easy. Cool? Everyone does that. That's the very first step in creating a bot. That's not going to do much. Have I added any AI yet? No. So what I want to do now is I want to plug in Lois, and now I want to plug in Q&A Maker. So that's the next step. Because we want to be able to just type a question and have it answered. We want to be able to type something that we want to execute and the bot know that we want to execute it. We're going to go and plug in application insights, which is in Azure, which is what we use for logging and telemetry. We can use that to log everything that the bot says, and then we can go and do a whole lot of reporting on that. And then phase 2, phase 1 is basic bot, Q&A Maker, bit of Lois. People still get massive amounts of value out of this. This is automating people's hundreds of, their web page with hundreds of FAQs that are completely unfindable. A lot of people, this solves their problem. A lot more value is delivered, though, to people in the enterprises when they go, we need authentication. We want to know who the user is. So if you're in Azure and you're using Active Directory, or if you're using Active Directory on-prem and you push it up into Azure, now your bots can know who your users are and know what resources your users have access to. And then they go through and they actually build a solution out using Azure, using Cosmos DB and all the rest of the features that are available up in Azure. So that's kind of the phase 2 bots. And now people are building systems around their bot. Where the real value, where people go, wow, that's amazing, is when they then tie their bots back into their enterprise systems. So you have a bot that's talking back to SAP on-prem, finding out when people have leave, how much leave they have, and processing all those kind of things. That's when the real power comes into your bot, and that's kind of the phase 3 that people end up getting to. The point of this slide is, the bots start off small. They end up using lots and lots and lots of different services. And that's really where the power of Azure is. There's over 100 services. Most of these bots are completely PaaS, so there's no servers that you have to be maintaining under the covers. And then leveraging, in particular, all of those cognitive services, all of those AI services over on the right-hand side. So that's a quick run through of how to put a bot together, or how a bot is put together. I keep seeing, and bots are amazing. I've seen people build amazing bots. There's so many people though where I've gone and I'm like, oh, that's not going to work. There's a lot of people who are building bad bots. What do you think the most common mistake is? It's the same mistake we've all been making in software for years. It's the monolith. Unless you're Microsoft or Google or Apple, you don't want to be making Siri. You don't want to be building the one. Or you can, if you've got the budget and the resources, you can make the one bot to build them. The one bot to build them all. You can make one big mega bot. But there's an emerging pattern where people are finding there's this crazy idea that's must be brand new. That when we make smaller, more directed things, they're more successful. And so there's an emerging trend where they say, consider the different job roles in your organisation and think of a bot as being an assistant for that job role. So in your company, it might make more sense to have a finance bot and to have a HR bot and to have a receptionist bot who might be the welcome bot that you can talk to, and it might direct you off or hand you off or dispatch you to those other bots. So this is definitely an emerging pattern that lets your users know very specifically, here's where I go to get this answer, which is what they do around the office as well, as opposed to coming in and a bot going, hello, and then users not knowing what the bot can do. What's the most common cause of failure? Once again, the bot problems aren't new problems. I wanted to create my own acronym, and I thought, this one gets so overused, I'm going to run with this one. Developer-driven design. This is once again not a new problem. You know, we did horrible things with access forms. Then we got Windows forms, and it just got worse. Then we got the web, and then we got Twitter Bootstrap. And I think that exacerbated the problem because now we had developers who thought they could be designers. Okay? It's worse with bots because it doesn't look like there's a UI, so we don't need designers. Then I got to say, there are some people who are awesome designers. There is a few developers I know who are great at design. Most of us aren't, and I know I'm famously terrible. My best friend, the designer, sits next to me. She used to sit where she could see my screen, and so then she moved. And you've got to love your designer because they make you look good. So, I own friends don't let friends produce developer UI. Okay, thanks, Jeff Atwood. This is my number one tip. I had one of my customers come to me and we saw an amazing wizard. The Microsoft Health bot, that is a great use of bot. It was 5 steps. It asked me 5 questions, but the logic, the processing behind that is phenomenal. I had a customer come to me with the 5-page wizard with 20 questions on each. Like, can we build a bot for this? I'm like, no, that's a terrible experience. You know, you really need to carefully consider whether a bot is going to be the right solution. So bots still need UX and designers is probably my number one bot tip. So when it comes to Lois is super powerful. I think you should get the smartest dev in your office to design your Lois. And they'll come to you with something like this. If you're building a rental like a realestate.com, you do amazing things. With Lois, I want to find a house for sale that has 3 or 4 bedrooms, priced between 300 and 450 with a large garage, about 2,000 square feet, preferably green, in 10 miles of work, which is in the city centre and has a large garage and a backyard pool. That is an awesome thing to do in Lois. I'd be so proud. I'd share it on GitHub and everyone would think it's awesome and it'd get heaps of stars. What's the problem with it? Users don't talk like that. But that is what developers are doing with Lois, is they're thinking, here is the problem and I can solve the problem, but really what you need to do is you need a UX person to come and talk to the user and say, what do you want to do and how are you going to say it? Someone needs to talk to the users. Now, what do you want to do today? I've learned after 10 years with my wife that this is not the way to start the day. Okay, what I get much more success with is I say, hey honey, it's a lovely day outside. Do you want to go for a hike, paddle a kayak, go to the beach, or do something else? This leads me with a much more successful day up my sleeve, and it's an important lesson to take to bots as well. Hey user, how can I help you is not a great way. I look at that when my bot loads, I'm like, well, I don't know what I can do. I have to go and type help, which is not, I've only just met you and I'm already feeling helpless. A much better experience is to go and say, hey, how can I help you? And get your bot to give the user some options and direct them. It's like when you call the banks. Do you want insurance? Do you want banking? Do you want loans? You can see the health bot didn't do that. The health bot didn't lead with navigation. The health bot is more open, but it starts with a great explanation. Here's what I do, here's what I'm about, and here's a couple of things you can try. I'm going to run through, here's just quickly a few more of the common fails I see. Where are you going to? Oh no, I didn't mean to do that. I'm sorry, I didn't understand that. Where you're traveling to? Oh, help. Oh no, I'm ignoring you again. I'm sorry, I didn't understand that. Where you're traveling to? Stop. We call this the stubborn bot. Okay, and the way to fix the stubborn bot is you need to have a global list of keywords with generic behavior. You can see, so that's also on that GitHub repo. First impressions matter. If someone types help, you want to give them a list of those common global commands. And they should be global because you don't want to have to type them on every single dialogue in your application. And so, yeah, there's demos of how to do those on my GitHub repo. I come in and the bot says, how can I help you today? And I say, what movies are showing this week? Nothing. I wait, I type hello, nothing. I'm sitting there and we call this the mysterious bot. And often what happens with the mysterious bot is you've typed something, the bot's gone off and it's doing some synchronous process, and when it's finished, it's going to come back to you. And this is another lesson I've learned from my wife. It's much better to go, it's okay, I hear you, I'll be with you in a sec. And that's what you should do in your bots as well. Acknowledge immediately and then respond proactively. And that's what that proactive template shows you how to do. Yep, I've done that. I'll come back and tell you when I'm done. Okay, this is actually my pet peeve of a bot, and I've seen this a lot. You just spent $10 on your credit card. Yep, I know. It looks like you're driving to work. Yep, I know. It looks like you've arrived home at day. Have a nice day. Ah! Okay, especially when these are voice bots, this is pretty irritating. But what does this look like? Yes, this is a developer debugging. You know, we call this the Captain Obvious bot. And what you want to do is only provide information that's going to be useful for the user. Does the user want to know about this? Does the user care about it? Next lesson, bots just aren't plain text. So adaptivecards.io, go check it out. You can actually do really nice UIs in your bots. The nice thing about adaptive cards, if you render the same, so you go and describe it in JSON, if you go and render it on Skype or Slack, all the different channels, it'll render it appropriately depending on what the content is. My other call out with adaptive cards is not everything is supported on every channel. Okay, so for example, there's an adaptive cards UI that has like a radio button. That doesn't work on Windows Timeline. So you've just got to work out what your channel is going to be and then work out adaptive cards, but they're super useful. Make sure you check them out with your designer. See that? Reviewing endpoint utterances. This is the other big thing. Especially when your bot is new, find out what your users are doing. So built into Lois automatically goes, I'm going to take everything that the user has typed in and I'm going to match it up. If it matched pretty well, that's fine. If it didn't match it and I'm uncertain about it, I'm going to stick it here in this place called Review Endpoint Utterances because I'm not sure I got it right. And then the user can come in, assign it to the correct intent, and that improves the underlying machine learning model. That's in Lois, but when you start writing your bot, log everything, review your logs, see what your users are doing. You'll be surprised and you'll make your bot better. This is the out-of-the-box analytics you get with the Azure bot service. You can see things like users by channel, your activities by channel, and your user attention. Did they come back? Which is really important. So there's a number of factors that do not guarantee a bot success. How smart the bot is. You know, it doesn't have to be smart. How much natural language the bot supports. It doesn't have to support a massive amount of natural language. It's better to guide the user, give them a menu, make sure it's a good experience. Voice. If voice isn't the right channel, you know, sometimes I see people busting to make their bot support voice when the users don't actually want it and they're not improving the experience. Here are my tips for successful bots. Don't try and build Siri. Don't expect users to know how to use your bot. Guide them to a great experience. And natural language interpretation is cool, but keep it simple and use it wisely. So really what it comes down to is when the question around, is my bot going to be successful? Bots should solve the user's problems better, easier, or faster than any of the alternative experiences. And this is my coffee experience. As I'm driving along, there's no way for me to do that. That would be a massive change to my experience, and that's what you're looking to do with your bots. Now, I love this topic, and I was just looking at how long I've got. I've got about 10 minutes. So there is crazy stuff going on. So people are already building awesome bots. And in the immediate future, I just want to call out that, the bot SDK version 3 is the one that's currently released. When you go in and you go create me a new bot, you can actually see there's a version 4 up there. I chose the version 3 bot. Version 4 is very close. I don't think there's a publicly announced date, but But if you knew where to go and you had a look around on the web, you could probably go and have a look and find, get a pretty good indication of when you might expect that to be roundaboutly roughly released. Okay? So the version 4 framework is very, very close. It's fundamentally different, so I would definitely, if you were starting a new bot today, that's what you'd want to be starting on. It's great. The docs are really good. There's a whole bunch of improvements on it. And just calling out my bot about bots is on version 3 now. When version 4 ships, it'll be upgraded to version 4. So what does tomorrow's bot look like? And we're already seeing this now. It's very easy. Alexas, Google Homes, Cortana devices. We already have ambient listening is already making it into our houses. I was listening to someone the other day who was saying they have to unplug all of their devices when their mother comes around because she doesn't want stuff listening to her and recording her. And that's the way it's going to be, though. We are going to visit people in their homes. There's going to be recording devices everywhere. When we go into offices, because people are going to want the ambient experience. I want to walk into my house. I've got a Google Home and I use it while I'm cooking all the time. And people who are doing home automation, they love the fact that they can be anywhere in the house and they can, lock the doors, unlock the doors, turn the lights on, do whatever they want to do. And we're going to see more of that. We're going to see it in the home. We're going to see it at work. We're going to start wanting, and in our cars, and we're going to start expecting ambient experiences everywhere. So it's a very easy line to draw around ambient experiences. And I think there's a whole nother talk around the ethics of AI and what's coming around ambient. So if I was looking for a career change, I think an AI ethicist isn't going to go out of business anytime soon. That's all very predictable and very safe, but there's massive opportunities there. But what does the day after that look like? Now, in 2012, there was some research done, and they started developing things you could stick on your head, and you could think about a letter, and you could type with your brain. Okay, and I just want to ask some questions. Because, these clearly aren't statements. This is just, where could this end up? The rate of improvement in technology is astronomical. So if in 2012 we could think about a letter and we could type a letter a second, this is obviously going to get better. So now, because what's the number one challenge with bots? Sorry? Speed of communicating. And also, I don't want to buy something from Amazon and have to read my credit card number out loud as I'm walking down the street. How cool would it be if I could just think it? I know there's people going, he's crazy. But we have the technology, they're building the devices, there's startups around the place everywhere. I got a guy on LinkedIn who contacted me from Brisbane who's doing that. So we're catching up for coffee next week. I said, gee, I wish you'd have pinged me last week. So this is a thing now. So how valuable are bots and how exponential is the rate of bots going to pick up when you don't have to communicate with your voice? So this is pretty slow though. Okay, the technology behind this is still letter driven. Obviously though, we've seen the rate of change in IT is amazing, so it's going to get fast. How about 8 words a minute fast? Is that getting pretty usable? Facebook has 8 words a minute now, and they're aiming to get to 100 words a minute. This is not crazy in the future, 8 words a minute now. Now, there's a catch. Who knows what the catch is? Well, there's probably 2. A, they stick a chip in your brain. But I see the bigger challenge is I don't really want Facebook listening to everything, I think. There's some issues there. But so in reality though, this is an amazing project. So I read last, they had 60 staff and they're working with people who have ALS. They have people who have challenges communicating. They're putting soluble chips in their brain and they're currently able to communicate at 8 words a minute. So just once again, at what point, and their goal is to get to 100 words a minute. There is a point where there's people that are where the risk is significant enough, or where there is a purpose where, could this be mainstream? Is there a point where we'd be able to just think, if you could communicate with your bot inside your head? It's very Black Mirror, but I don't think it's necessarily science fiction. Maybe it's just a little stretch at the moment. But I just wanted to put those thoughts out there. When you're thinking about bots and you're challenging, you're pushing back on your CIOs going, we need to do this. This is happening now. Challenge yourself as well and think about where else could you push? Where else could you push with bots? Because who looked at the iPhone and would have imagined the disruption that we've seen from Netflix or Uber? We don't know where this technology is going to take us. We don't know where these changes are going to lead. But it's a really exciting time, and it's a really amazing time to be developers. Look, the future, even the predictable future, is crazy astounding. Guys, what have we had a look at today? We talked about what are bots and why should you care. We talked about the fact that AI is really what's driving this change. We pulled apart a bot and saw how they fit together and some common patterns for their development. We looked at the common mistakes that everyone's making, and we talked about where this potentially could go. I'm going to take questions outside the door so that we can set up for the next speaker. I just wanted to remind you all that my favourite colour is green. If you see me around the conference, make sure to come up and say hi. Thank you very much.